My first triathlon was in 1987. Back then it was very much, you had clipless pedals were somewhere in the future. It was all toe straps. People were riding 19, 20, if you were lucky, 21mm tyres. And triathlon was in the early days. If we look there and look now where people are riding wider tyres, there's aero bikes, it would look like it was somewhere off in the future, and it was a completely different sport would evolve. At one point I rode for Giant. I'm now a Scott ambassador, but I'm here for Edco and also for Conti tyres. If this works, I'm very happy. There we go. So, first triathlon, 87. I was on tri-bars back in 1988. You had to get them imported from America, and they were quite expensive, but they worked. This is one of the early triathlons, and I thought then I was an innovator. Had tiny little BMX brakes to drop the weight down, even a bottle at the front of the bike there. And it evolved on. Most people have never seen one of these. This is a molten bicycle. So this was small wheels, suspension, the most awesome thing to ride for an Ironman, because it was super comfortable. It looked bizarre, but it worked. Then on to tubulars, discs, steep wheels. It all evolved and evolved and evolved. Even to a point where, so this was, 20 years ago, fat tyres, mountain bike, drop bars. That was what people now call gravel, or the kind of, fat tyre bike. And it was great, because it's comfortable, good handling, and I was just doing it for the hell of it, but it seemed to work. And then that was last year, doing a sprint triathlon on my choice weapon bike. I've advised various Ironman athletes. Matt Belford, who was our first winner at Lanzarote in '99, worked with Scott Nedley for several years. He won Wales and also got down to 8 hours 17 in Australia. But also, more importantly, age group athletes, like this chap, Paul, who came to me about 4 months before his qualification race and said, I've been really close, how do you get me closer? And I'll go into depth in a minute about how we got him faster. So, how have I learned? Connections with industry, people, trying things. There's some lovely power bar muffins there. That's a simple level of my cooking. I could just about do that, and that was it, no more. Work with top athletes, such as this elite runner here. Innovations, downloading, anything that's geeky and has anything to do with triathlon. This was recent testing with Phil Graves, top Ironman athlete. This was, almost 6 months ago, playing with new gels that are now out, and at that point they weren't. There's loads of different reasons why I've kept in this sport. This here, that's 4 things. You can't even see them, okay? They're that new, and there's several things that this will be available for download later, but that particular set of 4 pictures won't. It's 4 things that are very, very, very cutting edge, and that's why I like my job, and that's why I think everyone in the room and everyone in the sport, be it road racing, be it triathlon, duathlon, even just fitness riding, we're all learning, and those 4 things are somewhere off in the future, but that's what makes getting up and doing my job exciting, because there's things that we thought we knew about up till now. We did 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, those things will be on the radar. So, tyres. If you take a 6-hour Ironman bike split, a rider of say 80 kilos plus 10 kilos, it's going to take them about 40 watts, 40 watts in rolling resistance. So it's not insignificant. It used to be talked about as though rolling resistance was quite insignificant, but it's around 40 watts. Importantly, and this should be one of the things you take away, if you overinflate even 10 psi, that could go up another 6 to 13 watts. So suddenly it's harder, even though you pumped your tyres up a bit harder. And there is a sweet spot, and I'll come to that in a minute, but overinflation is the biggest mistake with tyres. And people have a default number in their head and they try and pump it up and get it as hard as they can. There are roller tests that are available online, and sometimes they talk about tyres being only 9 watts of rolling resistance. That's okay indoors on a very smooth surface like a roller. Out in the real world, it's never going to be that low, so we're not talking insignificant numbers. If you have a poor tyre choice or just a training tyre, that could add another 12 to 20 watts to this number up here. So now we're starting to talk quite significant amounts of rolling resistance. So aero works, we know, but so many bikes and wheels and helmets are aero. The place now to look for hidden watts is in tyre choice and inflation. If you were 10 kilograms heavier, you'd only add on about 3 watts to this scenario up here. If you try and take another 2 kilos off your bike, which is not going to be very cheap to do, okay, it's still going to be unlikely in rolling resistance to take off much more than a watt. Some examples of how tyre choice can make a difference. Scott Neardley, 2013 Ironman winner. Discussions before that race. It was wet, it's a lumpy course, not always great conditions under the tyres. So we had 25mm tyres, but we scrubbed off that they were 25s. So that anybody else seeing his bike pre-check-in or at check-in didn't realise he was riding wider tyres. We also significantly reduced the pressure in the tyres. And he said in the race, one of his first things he said afterwards was, brilliant tyre choice. I could hear the other guys skipping up the hills when they were trying to actually go with one another up the hills. They were physically skipping their back wheel because it wasn't gripping. So they put it up, however high we don't know, but they were not only skipping, but they also didn't have the courage to descend as well because they were not on as good a tyre pressure. And it was all down to wider and also dropping the pressure. Off the top of my head, I think we had him at about 95 psi. Pro Tour teams, up to a couple of years ago, they would have 25mm tyres, but they were actually written 23 on the side. Because there was such a tradition, they did not want to have 25mm tyres. So they would have 23 written on them, they were actually 25mm tyres. Recently at a Pro Tour team in Spain, they had their latest bike, so it wasn't a giant, but it was a bike of a particular team. And I looked at the bike, it had a lovely disc wheel, and I said, 22mm on the back. And the technical guys that were there firstly said, no pictures, do not put this on the internet because this bike doesn't exist at the moment. The second thing, they were very, not apologetic, but they didn't want to seem to be wrong. And they said, oh, no. They put 25mm on race day. They didn't want me to think that they were going to get their tyre choice wrong. And so they were saying they were definitely going to run 25mm tyres at the back. They didn't want to think that 22 was being perceived by somebody from the outside looking at the team that they were getting it wrong. So now they've almost flipped. Now they're thinking, we go wide. That's the reality of most people's tarmac on race day when you're training. Sometimes smooth, sometimes rutted. If you are a heavier rider, you say 90 as opposed to 75 kilos. If there was a 15 kilo difference, it's only about 13 pounds of weight on the front and 20 on the back. So the tyre pressures we're talking about don't have to be hugely high because somebody says, well, I'm a heavier rider. Heavier athletes should probably go at least for 25 and really for 28mm tyres. If your bike can fit them in, wider will help. It's a greater volume of air, more comfort, and it will suddenly feel like a great bike. Ultimately, you need to know what the surface of your race, of your sportive, of your time trial, whatever it is, you need to know what the surfaces are like. Because if it's rougher, you need lower pressure. For most people, tubs are not practical, okay? They're not faster, and they're not very quick to change. And if I'd said that, certainly 20 years ago, I would have probably been hung, drawn and quartered somewhere nearby, because everyone would have said, you're a heretic, that's not possible. Tubs are definitely faster. You can certainly get cheap tub rims on eBay, and there's lots of them, and it's only getting bigger and bigger. It tells you something about the direction that wheels are going. It's about clinchers and potentially, eventually, tubeless.
Is that because the clinchers have become much better, or was it 20 years ago already when people didn't realize?
Clinchers have now got better technology in them, yes. They are now better materials. There are better still in the pipeline. One of the quick pictures was something that potentially is a model that will appear in about 18 months. But yes, it's better technology in the clinchers. It's also I guess it's the hindsight of knowing now what clinchers and tubulars are capable of. Tubs are better, and now with analysis, with better understanding of what the tyre actually does, clinchers are not only more practical, they are actually faster. So wide and low works, so something like a 25mm tyre, an 85 psi or thereabouts, and I think Dave said from Giant's perspective, they don't spec a bike that's got a 23mm tyre, they're all 25s. Narrow and hard, so the old school, 20 mils at 130 psi. I think that was only good for dentists, to be fair, because it really did rattle you. It wasn't very good on rough surfaces, and in the real world, it is rough. Here's a geeky graph. Follow me carefully, please. The bottom blue line is the rolling resistance on a set of indoor rollers. So, as pressure increases this way, the rolling resistance drops and drops and drops. In real world, this green line is what happens to the pressure, to the rolling resistance, and green is the best you'll ever get. That's very, very fresh, smooth tarmac. So the sweet spot is somewhere around 110 psi or less. Overinflate, and it jumps up 9 watts just by being 10 psi out. And what you'll notice is the line this side of the sweet spot is fairly shallow. It's steep this side. So you're always better to underinflate and it slightly go up than to overinflate and it massively goes up. The yellow is more likely to be most people's roads. So the sweet spot has moved this way a bit more. Somewhere, maybe 100 or less. And what you've got to consider is up here is a very, very, very rough surface. So all of the online analysis on rollers is good for comparison, but it doesn't show real world. In the real world, you're likely to need something here, because even a tyre around 100 psi is still going to be better than pushing it up to 120. And if you get on a very rough bit of road, it's going to drop here. So try it. Try riding 90, 95, 85, even 80. There will be a sweet spot, depending on your weight, depending on the surface, but it's certainly not 120 or 130. This is on 25mm tyres. If you go to 28s, this all shifts this way. So the best pressure is even further this way. But to get it right, you need to have, yes, one of these valves, but not just one of these. Oh, I reckon that's about, oh, that must be 80. You need a digital gauge to get it spot on. And then you know, a bit like MotoGP, Formula 1, you know exactly what you've got in your tyres. And then you start noticing that if you ride, let's say for example, 85 rear, 80 front, suddenly that bike seems to handle really well. And I don't know where the sweet spot is for you, but what I know is it isn't up here as per the old school. And one of my clients was at IRONMAN Lanzarote last year, gave his pump to somebody and just said, well, how many PSI are you putting in? And this chap said, oh, I'm going to put 130 in. Now, Lanzarote has got smoother, but at 130 PSI over here, that person has just made the bike harder to ride. Also, for 112 miles, that's a hell of a lot of fillings that you've got to get sorted out after the race. And try it. Try riding at 100, 80, then go back to 110 and play around. But don't just guess and do the old school rule of thumb, and we all did it. Yeah, that's about right. Okay? Get it measured digitally. And remember, with triathlon, you might pump the wheel up at 5:30 in the morning. You might be getting on that bike at 8:30. You might still be on that bike at 1:30 in the afternoon. So you can also try the thing where you pump it up and see over a series of hours how long, hold on, technical, how long it takes for the pressure to drop, whether there's any pressure drop. But remember that whatever you have in your tyres, it does not stay the same. And by accident, some people have found they get on their bike, it feels really good, they go to pump it up and say, whoa, I only had 80 PSI in there. And yet, up to that point, the only reason why it was wrong was because the scale that they're looking at said 80. If you asked them how the bike felt, they were quite happy with it. So go out there, get your digital gauge and see what the best pressure is. But it will probably be a 2-digit number, not a 3-digit number. You'll be home in a minute, okay? This is the other end of the spectrum. This is looking at aero. This was Phil Graves. Aero position down to 281. His old baseline 308. So we were talking earlier about wind tunnels. This was done on a system that costs £125 for an hour and a half. And Phil managed to find 27 watts. So it's not always expensive to find it. But everyone must be aero, okay? You can drop rider shape. And as Chris said, he managed to drop his aerodynamic profile by using helmet and clothing. The system you just saw, the BioRacer green screen, you can see anything from 10 to 30 watt reduction just by getting people in the right position. Also, and it reiterates what Chris said, clothing, when you've got your tri-suit, sometimes with trips, sometimes with certain types of material, trip socks for the ankle to the knee, aero helmet, you might be looking at 10 to 40 watts. Now that's not for everybody. If you've already got a very refined position and equipment, you might only find 10. But it's not like aero is only for fast people. I hear that time and time again. If you're slower, you probably have less watts in the first place. You might be out there for longer, therefore why do you want to waste any energy overcoming flappy materials, poor aerodynamic helmet, or tyres that are literally dragging at the tarmac? So everybody should be aero and should be thinking about their whole existence. And most of all, getting your pacing right. Because in triathlon, you don't just finish and park the bike, you've got to go running. So getting your pacing right can be one of the biggest gains that you can get. This was back to the qualifier earlier. Paul, we looked at his bike fit, we looked at his suit, special number pocket that stays very flat on his back, even aero toe covers, little trip socks, Conti tyres, the works, and job done. Qualified for Kona, happiest man I know in November. Most people only get happy in December when Christmas comes, but he was very happy. Very, very happy. Okay? Wheels can make a difference. There is no doubt that if you take a box section wheel and you go to deeper wheels, they make a difference. Cheap tyres are slow. Box section rims are slow. If you get the right tyre and you get the right shape of wheel, it will make a difference. Let's say wheel shape might make on the front wheel maybe 10 to 15 watts from worst to best case scenario, and on the rear maybe 5 to 10. But depth affects handling. So some people, even these relatively low depth wheels, will find it difficult to control that bike in side winds. Other people, if they're heavier, if they ride slightly lower because they've got shorter legs, they may find that they can handle slightly deeper wheels. But there's no universal number that everyone should be on a certain depth of wheel. And all carbon rims, all brake pads, all builds of wheel are not created equal. You normally get what you pay for. So if you invest in wheels and you see it as one of the few places to invest, then good wheels do deliver. But remember, it's relatively small. I know that's not insignificant, but most of that could come from the wheel and tyre choice, not just buying really good wheels and then finding you've pretty much blown your budget and you put some quite cheap tyres on. That really is 2 steps forward and about 3 steps back. So you've got to always match good winds with good tyres. But most of all, bank the basics. Wide and low pressure. If there's one thing that sticks in your brain, wider tyres, lower pressure. Not tubulars. Repeat, not tubulars, okay? And also, pick your line when you're riding and know your surface, or as I call it, the enemy. Know what you're riding on, because if it's rougher, you drop the pressure more. If it's fairly smooth, you can perhaps go up to close to triple figures. But it isn't that higher pressure will work in all scenarios. Have a digital gauge, like one of these, and a good track pump. So you can pump it up to the correct pressure and check the pressure on the track pump with your gauge. Then you can always work out that you are making the right decision with your tyre pressure. Have a tyre square, and by that, get an old tyre when it punctures and you throw it out. Cut a square, something like 3 centimetres by 3 centimetres. In your race bike, could be in here, could be somewhere else. You know, people sometimes use these for spares, not just for liquid. They put all their spares in there instead. But a tiny piece of this tyre, because the day when you split your sidewall and you've got nothing else, that piece of rubber will fit inside and stop the inner tube protruding. Because if you get a really horrible split in the tyre, and I've had somebody have it happen in an IRONMAN, that was game over. Because by the time they were actually picked up and given a rim, they got so cold and they got so demotivated, they just packed it in. If they'd had that tiny bit of tyre that was just a few grams, they could have slipped it back in, pumped up a new inner tube, and bingo, they could have got back to T2 and finished off their IRONMAN. Also, have home spares. You should have at least a brand new tyre, 2 brand new inner tubes, wheels ready to go. So on those days when something goes wrong, you've got spares. You don't say, oh, I've got a puncture, the shop's closed, I can't go now and get my ride done. Have spares, and have quite a few spares, and have got a few spares. Sometimes even I carry some around in the car, because I figure someday I'm going to drive by somebody and they're going to need it, and I'm just going to throw them out an inner tube and bingo, you know? It's going to help them, providing it's the right, you know, the width and so forth. I'm not going to mend it for them, but IT. Right, nobody look, she's doing a password. Yeah. And finally, not a disc wheel. For most people, ignore disc wheels. Go for a comfy, deep rear rim. If you've got spokes, there's give in it. It's more comfortable. It won't get blown sideways in the wind. So for most people, a disc is probably not applicable. Somewhere around 50 mils on the front or thereabouts. But practice your aero position, because the wheels and the tyres feel completely different when you're out on the front of the bike with your elbows in the middle and there's nowhere else to go but start leaning into the wind. And you only find that out when you're actually on the aero bars. Be in fitted clothing, because it all combines, the clothing, the helmet, the race belt. And most of all, go for comfort over poor handling. To lower the pressure on most people's bikes is like a revelation, because they've always had a number and they pump it up, whatever. And if we can drop the pressure and even get them to go to bigger tyres, they suddenly start enjoying their biking more. And finally, certainly for the men, shave your legs. If you're worried about a few grams here on your bike weight, and you're worried about a few aerodynamic gains, your legs are churning round, they're going into the air, and there's probably 10 plus watts in terms of drag. So if you really want to start getting aero, buy yourself a razor and shave your legs. That's my book. That's the thank you. Any questions?
I got a pair of older carbon section wheels, because I can't afford a new one.
Yeah.
And they're quite narrow still, because nowadays, because of people using wider tires, also the rims are wider, right?
Yeah.
So would it be aerodynamically not a disadvantage to put 20,000 on a tire?
Oh, don't worry about the aerodynamics. You're not going to. You're not. Unless I don't recognise you, you're not going to be going so fast that the aerodynamics of the front wheel and definitely not the back wheel is going to make that much difference. Your comfort factor of the tyre on the floor is going to make more difference than a few watts on the front of the tyre. So yes, ideally you match up the tyre to the rim, and the tyre's about 95% the widest width to the rim. But if they're old school, relatively old school rims, still putting on a 25 will feel better. Yes, you might lose a few watts, but don't lose sleep over it, seriously. It will feel like a great bike. Okay. No? Blimey. What are you riding?
Personally, I'm on tubs. The main reason for that is when you have a puncture on the road, you need a tyre that's actually going to stay on the rim.
Yeah.
So if you run a clincher tyre, it moves around a lot. Now in a bike race, what you need is a tyre that's physically glued to the rim that will stay there, so that your team car, which Lars has just written off now, can get to you and change your wheel. You might be riding on a flat tyre for maybe 2 or 3 kilometres before you change your wheel. Obviously clinchers, they just move around too much, whereas the tyre is physically glued to the rim, so it'll stay there. But there is definitive points of advantages with clinchers. For example, you save at least 5 watts using a clincher in aerodynamics. You'd save probably another 2.5 watts if you used a clincher with a latex tube. You'd save 10 watts if you used a clincher with a no-tube system. So there is definitive benefits from using a clincher.
Yeah. I know.
Personally, it depends on the road conditions. Front pressures, generally I run 5 to 10 psi lower. So front tyre probably 90 or 95 psi. The rear tyre maybe 105 to 10 very low.
Bingo. Any more? Yes.
Is there a hard and fast rule between the front and the back wheel for the PSI?
For the PSI?
Yeah, do you go, right, I'm going to put 100 in the back and 95 in the front, and then...
If you want to be geeky, on most turbo trainers, there's just enough height from the rear wheel being kept off the ground. You can normally stick a pair of digital scales under the front wheel. If you measure the weight that somebody's putting on those scales on the front part of the bike, and you know the overall weight of the rider, you can work out how much pressure is going front and rear, and then work out, are you really loaded to the front of the bike, in which case you've got to wonder about the handling, and are you too much forward. But for the most part, you've got to play around with the sensation of the bike. There's lots of descending. Don't go too low on the front tyre, because you've got to get to a point where it's not too squidgy and it starts to almost lose traction on the corners. But with all of these things, if you know what you started a ride with, front X PSI and the back Y PSI, you can work out where that sweet spot is. And clearly on a flat, straight triathlon or time trial, you don't have too much variation that you need to worry about handling. But if it's a more technical 70.3 or it's a longer triathlon, then you want to lower the PSI so it matches your comfort with the technical part of the course. But there isn't an exact, but I'd agree it's probably somewhere around 5 to 10 PSI, depending on the nature of the riding.